Ja, vielen Dank, Herr Batu, für die freundliche.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bart, for the presentation. It's very funny to be announced like this. Normally, I am the one doing the announcements. And it's a real honor to conclude this convention. I opened it Wednesday morning, and today I'm the last speaker. So this is the very last session of our convention, which was very successful. We had 385 participants, more than 200 sessions. And I think that is a great success. But today I'm here wearing a different hat. I would like to tell you about our survey on customer reviews. And I would like to tell you whether they're really credible, relevant for strategy and for purchasing decisions. Customer reviews have been around for a number of years. They are very hotly debated. There's hardly ever been a session where here at the ITB convention where people have not mentioned customer reviews. So it is highly topical. And I'm very pleased to present to you today the results of scientific work that has just been completed. 7 students of mine have worked on that. Most of them are even here today. I have to say they have done a great job, having worked on what is their final thesis. And this is exactly what we would like to show you today. However, before we start, we will again have a TED query. You have the TED devices in front of you. And here are the 4 questions you would like to present to you. Question number 1. Customer reviews are absolutely essential in terms of booking decisions of tourists. You can press either yes or no. Please vote now. .93% say yes. Did you have a look at the study? This is exactly the figure we wanted to give you. Thank you very much. And here's the second question. Customer reviews are overrated. Yes or no? .23.7% yes say yes, they are overrated, and 76.3% do not agree. Question number 3. Customer reviews are often manipulated. 1 is for yes, 2 is for no. Very mixed picture, almost 50-50. It's very interesting, and we'll come back to that later. Question number 4. Customer reviews should be used more frequently for benchmarking, quality, and complaint management. You can vote now. .81.6% say yes, 18.4% say no. So there seems to be a need for action. This is also in line with the results of our own study. Can anybody tell me how to use this control? So this is what we would like to speak about. We will give you a brief introduction, tell you about the area of research. We will also mention the legal conditions to take into account, and then we will give you the results. First of all, we speak about internet users, second, customer review sites, and the hotel business. And then we'll close by giving some recommendations for hotel owners and also on internet users. So what exactly is the state of play? We are in a situation where for several years Now, customer reviews have been under discussion, very fierce discussion. These are headlines taken from different media or press releases. So you see that the focus is very much on hotel reviews. And if you take a closer look, you see that there are basically three topics people talk about. Very often people raise the question whether customer reviews are credible. And then the next question that comes to mind is it even important for people to have these recommendations? And then there's this question, are customer reviews fake? And if they are credible, what does that mean for marketing? So fake entries, manipulation, it doesn't come as a surprise that this topic pops up again and again. Everything can be bought, fans, followers, friends. You can buy all of these. There are commercial services offering weblog entries, customer reviews, offer you to buy you Facebook fans, etc. And there are certain price tags on that. It depends on how thorough the review is done, how comprehensive it is. So there's a highly organized market for this kind of review activity. So what did we try to find out with our research? We wanted to come up with a very comprehensive approach. And we wanted to focus on internet users, customer review sites, and the hotel business. Talking about internet users, we wanted to know what is the importance of customer reviews for them. Then we wanted to look at the different customer review sites, how they position themselves in the market, and we wanted to try to assess the quality of these sites. So we have come with a list of criteria to evaluate them. And then, as for the hotel business, we wanted to find out how the hotel business deals with customer reviews and how much they matter. And there were three questions we wanted to answer. Is it justified to doubt the credibility of customer review sites? So what do the users say? Have they learned how to deal with their doubts and credibility? And the other question we wanted to answer is, what is the marketing potential if you go beyond the mere topic of credibility? So this was the setup of our study. It was, as I said, very comprehensive. We prepared that study exclusively for ITB. So this is now the first time that we are presenting the results. We collected data for 2 months and a half. And then you see the other figures, internet users. We had 1,021 filled-in questionnaires that were handed back to us. Then customer review sites, we contacted 30 providers and received or analyzed 17 providers in detail. We analyzed their website. We handed a questionnaire to them, and we also had structured expert interviews. Third, the hotel business. We contacted as many as 63,600 hotels. I think this is an extraordinary feat of the students. And we ended up speaking to 1,500 hoteliers in 5 different European countries. This was an online questionnaire again. We have to thank our cooperation partners, VIR, Holiday Check, WKO, Turofed, HV, hotel associations, and then, of course, also IHA, the German Hotel Association. Thank you very much indeed for your support. Let me say just a few words on the legal situation. I'm not a lawyer, and I assume neither are you, so we don't want to waste too much time. But we have to keep in mind that legal conflicts happen quite frequently. The legal circumstances or conditions are not absolutely clear. But in general, customer review sites work in line with the freedom of expression. They can be anonymous. They're still covered by that act. Then it's well known that you have no right to complain about a publication on that. You cannot demand that something be withdrawn. Of course, there are limits to the freedom of expression, and they can be found in other general laws. This is connected to the criminal code, competition law, civil law, and of course, public law. The portal operators or the customer review operators only have to provide evidence that their reviews are correct when somebody blames them for having faked them. But this was basically all I wanted to say about the legal background, and this takes me to the result of our study. And I start with the internet users. And I would like to give the opportunity to the students to present the results to you. Ms. Schiffmann is here today, and I give her the floor. Thank you.
Yes, I'm very glad to be able to say welcome to you all. First of all, our sort of wanted poster, as it were, for the study. What was the study all about? Professor Conrady told you about it already. We looked into the relevance as well as the way we handle customer reviews and customer review sites from the point of view of Internet users. The survey period, as we've already heard, I don't need to talk about this. The users we asked were 1,121. The gender ratio was slightly imbalanced, 2/3 women and 1/3 men, but it is still a representative survey for online traveling, and there were no gender-specific differences in the results that we were able to detect. The age group we looked at, 36.6% of respondents were between 25 and 34 years on. The average household net income a month was between 1,000 and 2,499 euros. Regarding the educational background of our users, 70% had the GCSE qualification, that's the German Abitur or A-level qualification or something comparable. In our study, we deduced that the importance of customer review sites is definitely a high one. 96% of the respondents said, when asked how important they rate customer review sites, by saying it's important, very important, or even a must for booking. So this result we just had in the hall was also a reflection of the result of our survey. Customer review sites, however, are of great importance in the booking process at a travel agency as well, because users see them as the most important source of information when deciding in favor of a hotel or other type of accommodation. They rank first with over 50% in the survey, followed by other types of accommodation, 37%, and 20% go to recommended by friends or acquaintances. 9 in 10 of our respondents, when asked whether they use customer review sites in their decision-making process, said yes, either always or very frequently. This all makes clear that these customer review sites are absolutely necessary for the whole booking process, but often they're not considered to be as credible as they should be. Most people do. 86% think they are very credible or credible. Only 1% of respondents consider them non-credible. So despite the frequently negative reporting, users do seem to have a positive attitude vis-à-vis the assessments of other users. Users of customer review sites also get comprehensive information using a variety of different sources of information. The 3 main types of information made available by customer review sites either recommend, average value of an assessment, and individual assessments of people are equally important to our respondents. Yet 67% of them consider the recommendation by customers is very important, and 62% on average think this. The following graph shows you how the users of customer review sites check them regarding the number of evaluations given for one hotel. It's very clear that about 2/3 of respondents check at least 20 different evaluations for or reviews for a particular hotel, which makes very clear it's not just an individual review which is important, but the users actually obtain a comprehensive overview, which actually speaks for the experience way in which the users deal with this. They're well trained, they have a critical attitude to reviews. Nobody can deny that false reviews exist, but our survey shows that users do not allow themselves to be led astray by just one review, but they do try to have a comprehensive overview. In other words, they show critical appreciation of the reviews. And this is also why we looked at how users rated the credibility of individual reviews. 8 in 10 respondents say they have decided a particular review was considered to be credible or not credible. We asked them what they use as criteria. Very clearly, 84% use other reviews of comparable content, and that is the indicator for the credibility of a review, which goes back to the previous display, namely people don't rely on just one review, they do compare. Another indicator confirming credibility, authentic phrasing, photos and or videos as evidence, topicality, and also the high number of positive reviews for a hotel, which allows people to compare. Yeah, we've done the opposite as well. In other words, we put the questions on their heads, and 83% of respondents said yes, they've already considered one or more reviews as being not credible. We asked them what the criteria for that were. Almost 64% said that this review was noticeably different from the majority of other reviews, which again tells us that customers rate many reviews, not just one. Another criterion for how credible a review is, or in order to say something is not comparable, is over-the-top phrasing which sounds as if they're written from copied from a brochure. If it's the one and only one as a positive. So again, we see that people look at a multitude of reviews, so we shouldn't underestimate their smartness here. We looked at how they looked at hotels and valuations, whether they were right in thinking something was a bit shady or not. And this is true. More than 70% of Internet users have the experience that hotels actually comply more or less with the reviews they read in advance. So that actually confirms the credibility issue. Users clearly have a positive experience with the reviews. More than 20% of respondents say that the reviews they have, the hotel was actually better than the reviews we read in advance. But what is it that users do if they discover there's a review which seems to be not quite right? According to this slide, we see that about 50% say, well, they don't do anything if there is a non-credible review. But the rest of people actually take some active steps, and we looked into what exactly is it that they do. And we see that 35% refrain from a booking just because they've seen one and read one dubious review. More than 20% tell us that they spread the word in social forums. They tell friends and acquaintances about this. So it makes clear that there's a definite need for action. Users appreciate reviews. They appreciate reviews as a source for information. And they know that many of them are credible, but they're also certain that something really has to be done if something is not credible. And we have to make sure that seems to be the common denominator, that reviews can stay credible. So much on what I wanted to say about the results of the study. That was the part that we did in the students on the Internet users. And I'm happy to hand over again to Professor Conrady. He will continue the study presentation. Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Schiffmann, for presenting that part of our survey. I think we can already take stock briefly at this stage. We can say that very clearly users have learned to deal with deficiencies, and that users have developed a high degree of professionalism in the way they deal with review sites. A whole catalogue of measures seems to have been developed, which allows people to get value out of the review issue and to be aware of the problems. Unlike a study we did 2 years ago on that problem, we see that the situation seems to have improved. And in the face-to-face interviews, we see that very much is the case. Let's come to the second part of our research activity, that's customer review sites. So again, briefly what the study was all about. There were 2 other students who were in charge of that study. The objective of this survey was to look at analysis and positioning of customer review sites in the German market. The survey period was 1st of December 2013, from 1st of December 2013. All the details you can read up. We've looked at how do we position the customer review sites. After all, there's a whole host of them, 17 we analysed, but the relevant market probably comprises something like 30 or even more customer review sites. And ultimately, there are 2 ways in which you can differentiate between them. On the one hand, you have the closed review sites. On the other hand, you have open ones. The open review site is something where anybody who's registered can give his valuation, his review. And the closed review site, you can't do it like that. You can only do this once you've actually stayed at the hotel, and you have to have stayed at the hotel beforehand, of course. There are also some platforms which are travel-specific, while at the same time you have some general ones, which means that really all the categories can be reviewed. Now, looking at these 2 sort of dimensions, what we've done here is we've listed the customer review sites we've analysed and decide TripAdvisor, Zuva, Holiday, Check and so on the left-hand side. They're open review sites. Then Expedia, HRS are closed platforms, so that we've put them on the right-hand side. And there are also some general platforms, as you can see, Yelp and Chow. The bigger ones do seem very different. Some of them have 10,000 reviews. You can see that at the bottom right, Discover, down up to top left, TripAdvisor, 125 million. Seems to be a cluster in the 1 to 10 million scale. That's where we find the very sites that we often talk about, like Expedia, HRS, Holiday Check, and what have you. They seem to be in that sort of scale. Let me add one sentence. Obviously, there is a number of customer review sites which aren't quite so willing to give us answers. Obviously, we were annoyed about that because we found it rather difficult to incorporate them into our survey, which was sad. So the companies listed here are the companies which were quite willing to give us answers and to also talk in detail about the strengths as well as the weak points of their own business models. Now let's look at the review sort of process. How do we do it? Customer review sites. That seems to be the same thing whether we're talking about a closed or an open customer review site, by the way. Normally there's some sort of questionnaire which people fill in either after they stayed at a hotel or even without it. As I said, the difference is open one, you can do it any time, closed one after you stayed at a hotel. That review is normally checked by in-house software of the company concerned. Then there are 2 cases. On the one hand, you could say something seems a little odd, in which case that review is moved on to a quality team, which does a manual checkup. Or obviously, it could be possible that everything seems perfectly all right, in which case publication is instantaneous. That brings us to the left-hand side of the picture. Should, however, the quality team, which looks at something which was considered to be slightly odd, should they consider the review is rather dubious, then it will be deleted. If not, it will be given the green light after all. So that's a 2-step procedure, and this seems to be the same everywhere. It's a very positive indication, actually. We then used an assessment list, trying to see how the individual customer review sites are positioned and how they're to be assessed. That list is here. It's basically the result of looking at what's important to the customer. What do people really care about? So we didn't just do this list because we thought, well, this is great, but we looked at what do people tell us? What is the information that they actually use? And that's how we arrived at this list of evaluation criteria, starting with hotel information, with a sub-criteria, depth of information, comprehensive provision of information, yes or no. Then we also look at sort of assessment information, again, depth of information. Are there pictures? Are there videos? How current are they? Is there information about the authors who's done this? Is that somebody one can contact? And so on. And thirdly, protection against manipulation. Is there some sort of quality team? How many people are in that quality team? We tried to obtain information about this too. Do people use the software? What sort of performance software is it? How do authors qualify? How can the hoteliers react? What are the consequences if somebody tries to manipulate, or how can somebody receive an award, for example? We've tried to condense these criteria. That's why we have various things in bold: hotel information, assessment information, protection against manipulation as sort of subheadings. That gave us the following list. We've got an above-average group and a below-average group and a rather large middle group. The below-average group is not something which you have to say these are all bad things, because you can see there are lots of plus marks and little circles. So you can basically say the customer review sites do basically offer a pretty good service, all of them. Although we do have better ones and less good ones, and the difference in the positioning of the customer review sites is basically due to the fact that the sites are differently positioned in the market. Some of them have a strong e-commerce focus. Hotel booking is the buzzword here. Others don't consider that important. So that also has some effect on the rating we see here. I don't want to get into detail every single one of the customer review sites we looked at least not in detail. Obviously, you can read it all up in as much detail as you like, because we do have detailed information for every single customer review site. They're the sort of backup to the study, and all of that is going to be available online. You can read it all up later if you're interested in any details. Obviously, we, as usual, looked at the forged reviews. So what happened there? What do the sites say about those? We should ask them, shouldn't we? And we did. This is a self-assessment of the customer review sites regarding how many of their reviews are forged. And that's very clearly, they say between 1% and 5%. That seems to be the majority. There are very few who think there are more. Obviously, we notice them. Encouragingly, we see them more in their non-travel specific review sites. Now, obviously, we compare that to the statements made by the hotel operators and the customers, because we asked all of these in these two groups. We asked the people as well, do you think that people manipulate, that they fake things? The hotels as well as the customers very clearly tell us, yes, there are facts about fake reviews. About 40% say this is very probable, 30% say possibly there are fakes, and improbable is a much smaller group. If you're looking at the right-hand side on this graph, what is the share of fakes? The customers say 29%. Obviously, that opinion is to some extent very opposite that of the very opposite of that which the review sites themselves think. Now let's look at an interim results. I said already, those customer review sites which have a focus on e-commerce tend to have a slightly different positioning. Shows also that they have a lot more information about the hotel and fewer pictures that the users have. Obviously, there's a good reason for that, because the idea here is sales increase, or making sales in the first place. Second, how current is the information that the big customer review sites have? Well, obviously, big customer review sites have more current information. Not exactly surprising. If it's a big site, more people will write reviews. Third, inappropriate reviews are detected by in-house software. That's normal. Quality checks are also normal. But we're asking ourselves, is that enough in order to really work effectively? Sometimes we're a bit doubtful here, because some of the operators are very different from others. Some have been very credible in talking about their checkup system. Others saying, well, if you've got to check just about 100,000 reviews, and they often don't have enough people or software to do that. Author reviews often need improvement, but the users are really taking care of that, and probably that needs a lot of doing. Comment from hotels seems to be unusual. Bit of a change. Media, TripAdvisor, Holiday Check are exceptions to that rule, because it's quite sensible, after all, to have the hotels comment on the reviews. The internet users and the hoteliers have a slightly more sceptical view about protection against manipulation than the operators have. But of course, you do still have the opportunity of getting relevant assessments and being able to say, yes, I can work with that, it's useful, it's helpful. Let's come to the last part, hotel business. Again, what was that survey about? Two other students have worked on that, Ms. Schiffmann and Ms. Meersemann. And they've done a survey about how important it is to have hotels assessed and reviewed in important holiday destinations from the hotel point of view. You can see there, if you're looking at the bottom, we looked at Germany, Austria, Italy, Spain, and Turkey as important holiday destinations, where 63,000 hotels were contacted and over 1,000 were asked about, and the return rate was very high, 2.4%. So let's look at the hotels. Which were the hotels we asked? What are the samples? I don't want to read it all out to you. You can see it's pretty similar across the regions. Turkey is a bit less, Germany is a bit more. There's a strong focus on the individual type of hotel. Holiday hotels, very noticeable, 4 stars each time. That's also very obvious. So we are really talking about the main holiday travel. Now, obviously, we asked the hotels themselves, how do the hotels view these things? The reviews of the internet users, do they have a great deal of influence or some influence on the choice of hotel? And 54% in all these countries polls say that this influence is high or very high. So the hotels seem to be quite right in assessing how relevant customer reviews are for their clients. We've got a little circle around that column here because Spain is particularly important, because in Spain the reviews seem to be of tremendous importance. 57% of those hotels we asked say that such customer reviews are very important, have extremely high relevance. Let's now look at the next question. That's the economic impact. Assessment of internet users have a strong economic impact. That's what we can say on balance. We check different criteria. Guest generation, influence on the image of the hotel, and capacity utilization was the third. If you just look at the averages here, you can see they're always just above 2/3, 59%, close to 2/3 and above 2/3. So it's very clear that there is economic relevance to customer reviews. Germany seems to be sticking out a bit, 83, 81, 69%. So the business relevance of customer reviews is really confirmed as being very important, above average important. Worst review, you can see that here, half of the hotels we are say, it has what the effect is if you get really rated poorly. I don't want to go into too much detail about this, just tell you things that are really stark. Some hotels say we've got a high degree of regulars, so we don't need to rely on customer reviews or review sites. About a fourth of the hotels asked say that. Next question was, is there a way in which we can disseminate this from customer review sites or in the hotel's media? And then we can say yes. That is very widespread. Looking at the columns, you can see there are different ways of assessing the hotel for the guest. It can be by providing a link to a customer review site, because that's pretty frequent, actually. Very widespread in Germany, much above 40%. Then also link to the hotel's own website and the hotel's own computer. If you add it all up, you will find that most hotels give you an opportunity to assess their facilities and actively urge you to do so. And that brings me to the next point already. That's the question of being actively encouraged to write a review. We asked about what types of incitement there is, and we asked 60% is a personal contact. That seems to be the prevalent, the main way of doing that, and then telephone, email, or letter. That's 36%. Using flyers and posters, that's 24%. There's no encouragement to post a review. That's only been said by 15%. So the hotels seem to be very active, pleasingly so. Then we asked about what are the most important customer review sites, and where do you, dear hotels, find yourselves in this?
Dieser 3 an dieser Stelle nennen, Booking.com.
Then we can name the top group of the 3 here, Holiday.com, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Holiday Check, and TripAdvisor. More than 60% of hotels are booked through these review sites in the 4 countries, and I want to get into too much detail about that. Definitely is the leading group.
Die Frage ist dann auch, wie viel Zeitaufwand?
And then the question is, how much time does a hotel owner invest to have a look at the assessments, at the reviews? You see how many hours they use to screen their own hotel reviews, marked in light blue, and how much time they spend to look at their competitors, dark blue. So it starts with 5 hours. Germany is Germans don't really spend a whole lot of time. Perhaps they're just faster than others, or they are not as thorough as the others. We don't know. So about half of the time goes into looking into the reviews of competitors. And it produces quite a lot of hours. Look at Turkey, 23 hours that they spend looking at their own reviews, and 12 hours to look at reviews of competitors. And you see it at the bottom in the box. 84% of the hotel owners say that they integrate screening customer reviews into their normal work procedures. That's very positive, so it seems they have found an approach of making it a part of their everyday routine. We also asked whether they use any software to screen customer reviews, and the answer is that such software is not very widespread. Only 22% use such software, and the big majority, 88%, do not. So there is a lot of room for improvement. And then, of course, we also asked who are the different providers, whose software would be used for such a purpose. You see Customer Alliance, 16%, Trust You with 25% is one of the top providers of such software. Then we asked whether the hotel owners actively use customer reviews. So how do they deal with positive reviews? We found that many of them are positive. The hotels use it for advertising on their own websites. This was the answer of 38 hotel owners. It's not so much the case in Spain and Italy. They also send a written thank you letter to that customer. Very interestingly, in Turkey, it's very, very common to call the customers who provided positive reviews. And then there was also a significant part of the hotel owners who say that they appreciate the reviews, but they don't really respond to them. So as I said, some of the hotels try to get in touch with a customer who posted a review, for example, by phone in Turkey. Sometimes they offer a certain reward, but not very often, 11% in Germany for such a measure. And then interestingly, 71% of the German hotel owners say that they use the reviews to optimize their management, and also very high share in Turkey. And then at least 60% of the hotels respond to negative reviews. About half of the hotel owners have had experience with forged reviews. You see the figures here. I think I have to comment all of them in detail. So that is a very common experience. We also asked for the reasons or perceived reasons. The hotel owners think that it's easy to forge if you do not have to produce any evidence that you were actually staying at that place. Then we know that there are service providers who produce positive reviews in exchange for a payment. And then, of course, we find forged reviews produced by the hotel owners themselves. Do the hotel owners do anything about these forged comments? Yes. Normally, they report this to the platform in question, 82% for Germany, and even 95, 96% in the case of Turkey and Spain. So they would report it to the platform, comment on it. They try to get in touch with the customer who posted a review, and in some rare cases, they seek legal support to deal with this. Then there was a question whether the hotels were blackmailed by customers who said, if you don't give me any extras, I will post a negative review. Most of the hotels do not respond to that, although there seems to be a north-south divide. In the south, there's a more mixed picture. So there's a case-by-case decision on how to deal with such customers. But there are very few who actually comply with that. This takes us more or less to the end of the presentation. Here are our recommendations. First of all, for consumers, you should be using several customer review sites. look at several parameters, the overall assessment, the review, the mark, the recommendation, look at how detailed the reviews are. Then you should also have a look at the tonality of the assessment. Look at how many reviews were posted. Of course, if there are very many reviews, that will give you a more realistic and more valid picture. If there are any customer reviews that you don't find credible, you should report them. You should also check the author. Where does the person come from? Are there any contact data? What is the background of that person? Then you can also check whether the platform is up to date, having current information. And of course, you should also have a look at the comments of hotel owners who respond to customer reviews. Here are the recommendations for the hotel owners. Screen customer reviews regularly. Use positive assessment for marketing. Use negative assessment for improving quality. Use reviews for benchmarking with your competitors. Trying to find out whether there's manipulation, contact the platforms, ask for deletion of forged reviews or manipulated reviews. The hotel owners should use social networks, be present there, and also collect positive reviews, possibly with the use of the appropriate software. Ladies and gentlemen, we started a little late, and I'm sorry that we also finished with a slight delay. But I'm happy to see that most of you are still here, so thank you very much indeed for being here. And I hereby declare this convention closed. Thank you very much for coming. We will upload all of the presentations on our website. If you have any specific questions, you're very welcome to address them to me. And I'm looking forward to being in touch with you. I hope you enjoyed ITB and enjoy the rest of the evening.